Now, staying with that story, the National and KZN's Public Works have confirmed the establishment of a task team to deal with abandoned buildings in the city of eThekwini. The two departments have also vowed to crack down on construction mafias in the province that have delayed a number of infrastructure projects. KZN Public Works and Infrastructure MEC Martin Meyer joins me now live. MEC Meyer, thank you so much for your time. I guess let's start with those welcomed news of some arrests that have been made in recent weeks when it comes to the construction mafia. And as welcomed as that is, we do know that this is part of a bigger problem and it's probably only a drop in the ocean. But specifically when we're talking about the construction mafia here, nothing is new, but it is clearly escalating. If you could briefly paint a picture of how it's spreading. I mean, we also have reports of 8 construction sites that have been halted recently.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for having me. The problem is quite widespread, and something that started in KZN in 2014, 2015 is now happening in all 9 provinces, unfortunately. But right now, we have a couple of our projects of Provincial Department of Public Works and Infrastructure that is having halting work. Menzi High School in Umlazi being the most famous. We've had some disruptions at King Dinizulu Hospital and other projects, as well as the 8 projects in the city centre of Pietermaritzburg. Although that seems to be more linked to community unhappiness than directly linked to construction mafia. So it is still a widespread problem. We also know that it's very difficult for us to track as a department because obviously there's our projects, there's a national projects, and then there is so many private projects that's also been disrupted, which is why we thought it important to get all the role players around one table to know exactly what the extent of the problem is and to have a joint reaction and a joint action towards this and make sure that we all, as members of the construction industry, both government and private sector, speak with one voice on this matter.
Yeah, and you've been reported saying that government, and also we've heard the minister as well saying that government will not work with them. They will work with the legitimate business forums, not violent gangs pretending to be forums. Now, while you won't, as government, work with them, rightfully so, what is the solution for companies that are held at ransom by these mafia groups that can't, out of fear, reject the stance that they have?
It is very important for if our stance towards the so-called construction mafia is going to work, that everybody that's involved in the construction industry in the country need to speak with one voice. So that's why we're wanting to engage with people in the construction industry to make sure that we all have exactly the same approach. When I was speaking to the SAPS, to the Provincial Commissioner and people in the task team, they all shared their frustration that so little cases are actually made. So few people that have their sites disrupted actually go and lay charges at the police station, which means there's very little that SAPS can then do, and our reaction as a government then becomes very difficult. So it's very important for us to have one approach across the country in all 9 provinces, which is why Minister McPherson has announced that there will be a conference with all the MECs and ministers and from the relevant departments. But also we have to get the construction industry, the subcontractors, contractors, and everybody involved to make sure that we have a uniform approach to this problem, because otherwise it will fail and we will continuously be held ransom by these criminals.
Yeah, and you're saying everyone needs to speak with one voice across the country as well. But also we just heard the minister describing them as not nice people. So it's one thing to speak in one voice, but when the reality on the ground is that you fear that you could lose your life, or your staff's lives could be in danger if you don't pay certain protection fees, it's a different ball game, don't you say, MEC?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why I've also been very clear that I don't want to escalate this matter. I'm trying to de-escalate this matter and make sure that we have a peaceful province and a peaceful industry. And it's very easy for us to speak. But also, as the old saying goes, evil thrives if good people do nothing. And we cannot allow criminals to take charge of our country. And the people of South Africa has many times in our past stood up against tyranny, stood up against criminality, and the way that people of South Africa stood up against the evils of apartheid government shows that we are a brave people that will stand up for good versus wrong, and we need people to do that again. It is very clear to me with my interactions. Today, I addressed a Women in Construction forum that was held in Pietermaritzburg, and all these people there were women that work in construction, all stood up and said, MEC, we're 100% behind you in standing up against the construction mafia. Everybody is suffering. These construction mafias aren't Robin Hoods that comes to steal from the rich and give to the poor. They are stealing from government and from the people for themselves. And people are tired of it. The people of KwaZulu-Natal is definitely tired of it, and they want us all to stand up. So I know it is scary. It is for me as well something I have to be concerned about. But we have to stand up for what is right. Otherwise, we will lose this fragile democracy of our country that so many people have fought and died for.
And I know you're saying you want to de-escalate this problem, but also while standing up for what's right when dealing with, quote, the minister, with not nice people, security becomes a huge concern as well. You mentioned earlier as well that some of the business owners don't even report these crimes to the local police stations as well. Why do you think that is? Do you not think there is already a trust deficit?
I think that is true. Also, that there has been cases in the past where your local police officers might not be fully equipped to deal with it, which is why we want to engage with the Minister of Police as well at this conference that we're going to have. And I've already engaged with people in the SAPS task team and at provincial levels who have said that we can put things in place to make sure that there are people that will come, police officers that will come and enforce it. And we've seen what happened now in the case in Mduzi, in Camperdown, where the court case happened today. What does happen when you lay charges? That the police will act, and I think there's been a turn. We also have to remember that in the past, there was a bit of a lack of political will to deal with these issues. But now from both the provincial government in KZN and the national government, there's a very clear political will to deal with this. And this goes through right through in KZN, myself, all my colleagues in cabinet and the premier. And remember that in KZN, community safety falls directly under the premier now. But also in the national government, President Ramaphosa himself has spoken out very strongly against this, as has other ministers. So the political will is definitely now there. Government is now standing up and will now stand behind everyone else in the construction industry to make sure that we can now fight against this scourge.
Yeah, you also established a task team in June, MEC, as well. Would you be able then, in a couple of months from now, to come back to South Africans and residents of KwaZulu-Natal to say, these are the number of arrests that we've had, these are the successes we've had, and these are the challenges that we're still facing?
Absolutely, and one of the outcomes we've already had is that we've learned from a couple of big role players in the private sector. And as a department, we're now committed to start engaging with community members a lot earlier in our own projects, because what that does is it closes the space for the construction mafia to function in, which I think is the best peaceful solution that we can have. A space was created with the regulations that should exist, by the way, allowing community members to participate in projects. But because departments weren't engaging with the communities early enough, they didn't necessarily have people with the necessary skills, and that's something we're going to address, and that's something we've learned from working together with people in the industry who's had some successes against the construction mafia and safeguarding their own projects. So we will continuously, I'm committed to make sure that the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in this province has transparency, that we will always take the people of the province in our confidence. I have made it clear from the start, there's no quick fix to this challenge. And I've asked the people of KwaZulu-Natal to be patient with us on one hand, but also to walk this road with us. We will only overcome this challenge if the people of KwaZulu-Natal stand united behind law and order and the rule of law. And we're asking the people of KwaZulu-Natal to always be with us on this road. But from our side, we then have to be committed to always take the people of this province in our confidence and share with them exactly where we are in fighting this problem.
Yeah, how do you distinguish between concerns by community members who claim that, you know, they should be getting jobs by these construction companies, that they got promised jobs and they expect jobs as well from the work activity in their areas, and companies that don't employ locals and those that are operating as construction mafia? Like, how do you then distinguish that this is a legitimate concern by residents and locals who do probably deserve those jobs in those areas versus is this a construction mafia syndicate?
Well, it's quite easy, actually. People that come to us peacefully and following the law have legitimate concerns, and we will listen to them. People that arrive with guns in big 4x4s and double cabs and disrupt work brandishing automatic weapons and 9mm guns around, they are not legitimate. They are criminals. And I've been very clear from the start that I'm very happy to meet with anyone that comes to us under the flag of peace. And tomorrow at our offices, we will be having such a meeting with a group of business people who have come to us peacefully and saying we wanted to talk about our concerns, and we're very happy to do so as a government. But if people break the law, they are criminals. It's plain and simple. There's no debate about that. People that stand outside of the law must be treated as people outside of the law. So whilst we are happy to engage with those who have good intentions and want to engage with us in a peaceful manner, we will not engage with people that break the law. That is a fast track to total lawlessness.
And just lastly, MEC, before I let you go, of course, you also mentioned plans around abandoned buildings in the city of eThekwini. How will this help as well? We have a role to play as a department within the cities to make sure that, especially in a city like eThekwini, where tourism is very important, that we don't help degrade areas like the inner cities. And we definitely have to make sure that the buildings we own are either in a good shape or we have to get rid of those buildings. A very good example is the Palm Beach Hotel in eThekwini that belongs to the Department of Public Works. And within the next week or two, we will announce very exciting plans with that building, for instance. We cannot be part of the problem. Public works and infrastructure must be part of the solution. And we are committed to do so, and we will work with all the municipalities in eThekwini. We are planning a conference very soon. We will engage with role players from the business sector, from the business chambers and with the municipalities to see how we can help with our buildings that we have. And we're also going to get rid of some of the buildings because we have to pay a lot of money on rates every year. And if we don't own a building that serves the public of KwaZulu-Natal, then we shouldn't be owning that building. And that's what our approach is going to be going forward. MEC Meyer, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.